Okay, so this is my American Vintage II 1961 Strat. And I've had this guitar for a while. It's kind of my main guitar these days. And as you may or may not know, it comes with the Pure Vintage 1961 pickups in it. And I like how this guitar sounds. I like pretty much everything about it. But as is always the case, we always wonder, hey, could I make it better? And one of the things I was thinking is I have a few pickups on hand that I've put in other guitars, either guitars that I've modded or even some parts casters that I built, and figured, let's go ahead and try out those pickups in this guitar and just hear how they sound. So we're only going to focus on the neck pickup here today, and I have two pickup types that I want to try out. The first, this is a Suhr V60LP. So this is Suhr's version of kind of the early 60s Strat pickup, and so I think it's a very comparable pickup to the Pure Vintage. And so I'm interested to hear how this sounds and how it compares to what Fender thinks of as a 61 versus what Suhr thinks of as kind of the best tones from the early 60s. The second pickup I have, this is a Lollar Blonde. So this is a little bit of a different era single coil. I think this is modeled more after the late 50s. So, I mean, we're not too far off, but it is a slightly different take on a Stratocaster pickup. So it won't sound exactly like the 60s ones. It'll have a little bit of a different tonality to it, and that'll be expected, but I'm interested to hear how this sounds in the American Vintage II guitar. So what we're going to do is we're just going to plug the guitar in. I'm going to get some sample tones with the original pickup, and then we'll move on to the other pickup. I'm going to try to put the videos back to back so you can really get a direct comparison between the three. So for these tone samples, I'm using my Friedman IRD preamp. If you're not familiar with that, it's based on their Dirty Shirley amp, which is kind of a vintage Marshall kind of thing. So think plexi kind of tones, and you're not too far off. I am running through my Quad Cortex just for a little bit of reverb, but no other effects. And I'm using the Quad Cortex as the interface so we can hear what it sounds like. But all the drive, all the IRs are running on the Friedman. If you're not familiar with that pedal and you're interested in more, I did a video on it. I'll link to it here. But I'll start on a cleanish tone, and then we'll just kind of add more gain as we go. Okay, so I waited until I had all of the tone samples recorded, and I actually edited them so I could hear it back. I wanted to hear kind of what the recording was sounding like in addition to what I'm hearing in the room, what I was feeling from my hands on the guitar. And there's not a large amount of difference between these pickups. I expected a little bit more of a difference, I think. You know, the Pure Vintage and the Lollar Blondes have pretty much exactly the same output levels. I'll put the different output levels of the guitars here. The Suhr is a hotter pickup by a little bit. So definitely, you know, when I was playing in the room, I could feel kind of more output from the guitar. And that made it, I think, a little more touch sensitive and a little bit smoother. But the 61 Pure Vintage are pretty smooth too. They don't have a lot of top end. That's one of the things I liked about the 61s, especially when I compared them to the 65s when I did that video. And I'll link to that here. The Lollar Blondes, as I kind of expected, being more of a late 50s, they have a little more top end to them, maybe a little more scooped, a little less kind of mid-range. But again, the difference, especially on the recorded video, was not that great. I think I was kind of hearing more difference in the room and feeling more difference in terms of, you know, how my guitar was reacting with the rig, more so than I'm hearing through, you know, the recording as it gets, you know, all the way through the quad cortex and into Logic. So right now I've got the Suhr V60 in here. It'll probably stay in here for a little while, but I'm thinking I'll probably end up going back to the Pure Vintage. You know, I'm not really getting that much difference by replacing this pickup, so I'll go back to kind of keeping it stock. But, you know, I had those pickups around, so it was an interesting exercise. You know, I hope if you're considering any of these pickups for one of your Strats, you found this helpful. And as always, thanks for watching.